Darts Coaching with Dynamite Dave. This is a second in the series of It All Came About. No doubt you've watched the first in the series, which is about where I grew up and what have you, and a game that you possibly have never heard of before, which a lot of people outside Manchester probably will not have heard of, which was the log end game. So that's all done now. You've had a watch of that, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go on to where the throw originated from, how it came about, the reasons for it, and well, hopefully you'll enjoy it anyway. So here we go, over into section 1 of episode 2. Right, so here we are in section 1 of episode 2, and what we're going to talk about here is why I came to develop the Dynamite Dave stance and address to the board and the throw. Now what happened was, as I said in the previous video, during my youth I was always attracted by darts, always interested in darts, on and off, not solely, not like a darts fanatic or anything like that, it was just there bubbling away in the background. So when I came back to darts, well, what happened was my eldest son, who's called Michael, was 21 years old, and for his 21st birthday, part of what we bought him for his birthday as his gifts was HD Pro dartboard, and put the dartboard up, and me and him had a bit of a chuck. I found that I was quite, not proficient at it, but I enjoyed it. I was reasonable, being able to hit a couple of 20s every time I went to the board and what have you, and I thought that was great, so it attracted me to start playing again. So then what happened was we were having some work done in the back garden, and you've heard about the man shed. We decided that we were going to have a big shed built in the back garden, so I was actually getting more and more of a passion for playing at this point. We decided that when the shed was built, I would put a dartboard up in the shed. So that's where the man shed came about, and you'll see in the very early videos, the first 2 or 3 videos were done in the man shed, and some of them have been done in there after that, but I hung curtains up and made it a bit more into a studio. So anyway, I've digressed, as I always do, and the reason why the Dynamite Dave stance and address came about was I was playing, I'd gone out and played in the pub a couple of times, got well and truly thrashed, but I had an idea that I could be a lot better at it. So as you do, as everybody does, I started to practice a bit more seriously, but nothing was happening. I got to a certain level where I'd say I probably had an average of probably 35 to 40, something like that, maybe 45, because obviously in those days I didn't calculate averages or anything like that. It wasn't a serious thing for me, but the actual passion for the game was a serious thing for me. So I got more and more frustrated, like you do, thinking to myself, I'm wasting my time doing this, I'm wasting my time going out and playing and what have you. And I wouldn't say I was on the verge of giving it up, because I wasn't. I was actually passionate about playing the game and I was enjoying it, but I wasn't enjoying it to the extent that I would enjoy it if I could play properly. So when I was talking to my brother Roy, who we spoke about in the first one, he turned around to me and he said, why don't you get yourself a mirror? Because that's how I did my throw, was I got a mirror, put a mirror on the floor at an angle and watched myself throwing from the front. And he said what I did was, he said I could see that I was doing things wrong and what have you. So I got a mirror and started watching myself, but couldn't fathom out how to put things right. But maybe it was because it's in a mirror and it's back to front and what have you. It was very difficult to analyse and to react to. My brother seemed to do it quite well, but it didn't work for me. So it just happened to be that I was off work. I was watching a new thing that had just come round, and it was NTL, 9X the company was, and it was the first ever cable company in the UK. And I was watching a channel that I'd never seen before, which was called the Discovery Channel, and I thought it was fantastic because it had all wildlife programmes on it and all sorts of stuff. And I just happened to be sitting there watching it, and this thing came up about a mechanical bow. And it was like these people from a university were trying to do the Robin Hood thing, where he used to be able to, or they said he used to be able to split the arrows. Now, obviously that takes some massive amount of skill, and for a human being to do it, it'd be very difficult. So these university students had decided to make a mechanical bow, a version of a long bow, and set it up on a frame that was on wheels. This frame was on wheels. It was a bow on a frame, and they had a mechanical system that pulled the string back, or the whatever you call it, the cord, the wire. It pulled that back, and then it fired the bow. And on the early stages of it, they were finding that it was very difficult to get the exact amount of tension on the bow, the exact amount of this. Anyway, it was stuff that was pretty much irrelevant. But watching it, I thought to myself, well, hang on a minute, if something mechanical can produce that form of accuracy, then if you can produce something that's mechanical in a human form, it's bound to be more accurate. It's got to be more accurate. If you've got let's say a drill, and you're drilling down into something, like when you're doing a bit of DIY, the drill can be off at an angle. But if you've got a pillar drill and it's actually connected to a frame that brings the drill down in a perfect line, it drills the same hole every time. So why won't that work in a human form? If you're as mechanical as you can be, obviously there's still going to be slight anomalies there, because you're not a machine, you're a human being, and you're going to move, you're going to sway these things. But the more that you can compress that into the least amount of movements, the least amount of differences, the least amount of contributing factors in the way that you throw. In my early working career, I was an engineer, and obviously engineers work to small tolerances, and this is where this in my mind came from, to become more mechanical and what have you. And then when I was doing it and I saw the bow, it just all sort of like fell into place, and it was like, that's what you've got to do. You've got to make yourself more mechanical. And started writing down, and then we were on car boot sale, which we have in England. I think you call them garage sales in America, or front garden sales. And they happened to be there a Sony Handycam, which was, it had like a little cassette thing in it. And I bought that, and I remember it cost me, I think it was a £5, £5, which is about equivalent of about $8 or $10. I got a pad, a pen, and that's how I went about it. I actually started thinking mechanically, thinking of what the best stance is, as I've said to people, when you actually put your toe to the hockey. If you put your feet in an L shape, you've got it's unstable. So my thinking was, which is the most stable stance you can find? And the most stable stance that I could find was feet shoulder width apart. What we're going to start off with is the bottom half of your body, and getting this actual section of it correct, because as I've just mentioned, this is one of the big fundamental building blocks of how you're going to play darts, hopefully for the rest of your life. So what we do is, first time we come to address the board, we stand square on and have a look at the board. Look down at the hockey, which is here, and what we do is we put our foot side on to the hockey, and what you want is where your balance point is. So basically relax, you want your feet shoulder width apart or just less, no leaning onto your front foot, so you don't want to put a lot of pressure onto your front foot. What you want to be doing is standing up straight with a very, very slight lean forward, so there's a minimal amount of pressure on your actual front foot. You want the centre of your foot in the centre of the hockey, so when you put your hand down here, down the centre of your body, and bring it up, your hand wants to be pointing directly in the middle, so cutting a section through the treble, the double three, the treble three, the bullseye, the treble 20 and the double 20, right up to the top. You want to be right in the middle. And then as you rock forward a little bit, you'll feel your hip lock in, like this. And that is what will keep you solid. The last thing you want is, like you see a lot of people, they've got the toe to the hockey and they're standing forward and they've got all this movement in it, and then they wonder why they're thinking they're very inaccurate. This way locks you right in. Right, so here we are, we're stood on the hockey, and we're stood in the correct position, so we're pointing out towards the board, right up the centre. So now what you're looking for is to fetch your arm up level, so from your shoulder to your elbow is kept level. You'll find if you keep that level and you fetch your arm back, the dart will come at the side of your eye at the back of your swing. What you don't want to be doing is watching your dart or trying to aim down the dart and throwing your dart like that. You don't need that, it's instinctive. But you want to be throwing directly at, we're looking directly at where you want the dart to go. So again, we come up to the hockey, get ourselves into our position, arm up nice and level, and then tip-top position. A nice tip-top with your elbow, and as your elbow comes over, you can feel your fingers let go. Like that. Fingers should automatically open. The next thing you're looking for in your basic throw, get this right from the beginning, is a proper follow through. Don't throw the dart and then like go like this and let go of it. No, follow right through with the dart and just let your hand, as you can see my arm there, as I'm throwing forward, my hand is naturally opening. What we're going to go on to now is the grip. Now, I call it 3 points of contact. So basically, if I can get you an exploded view of it, you can see there we've got a nice straight thumb. Get rid of these other darts. We've got a nice straight thumb. We've got a finger over the top, which stops up and down vertical movement, and we've got the back of that finger and the finger on the point, which stops lateral movement. As you can see, when I've got hold of that dart, it is rock solid in my hand. If you hold a dart like this, it's got loads of wibbly wobbly in it. Look at that. There's virtually no control over it at all. Ones that are coming through are adopting a very similar style to what I'm teaching. So I think that this is something that I've had for years, but I think it's the future. So there's less anomalies in it. The less anomalies, the less differences that are in it, the more accurate you're going to be, the more consistent you're going to be. And like I say, these are the building blocks for the future. So your basics is what I tend to tell people to do when I'm coaching them, is put your hand across your chest. And this should keep you square on. So you want to be square onto the board, not open like this, square on to the board. And just pull the dart back as I've shown you, and your hand automatically opens as it comes over the top. Again, set yourself up as you come back round to the hockey. Very, very, very important. Look down at the hockey and make sure you're getting your toe in the same place every time. You've got to be... When you stood with your feet shoulder width and just less than shoulder width apart, and you turn side on, then you've then got the stability of this way and the stability of that way as well, because your body's turned, not your body's turned at a 90-degree angle, but your head and your arm is over at not quite a 90-degree angle, because that would be quite uncomfortable, but you're as far over there as you can get. I would imagine perfection would be if you could be absolutely 90 degrees bang onto the board, and your arm, if you get at 90 degrees, as I've said in loads of the videos, your arm won't go any further. It will, but you've got to force it. So if you fetch it back to that stop and bring it backwards and forwards, it runs on that stop and your arm goes in a straight line, and then it's a matter of doing is just turning your body a little bit here and there. So I spent 2 years, just over 2 years in the shed. First dart in, and then your second dart at your first dart's flight, and then your third dart at your first dart's flight, and there you go, straight out the back, first thing in the morning, 180. Certainly is 180.
180. Oh, 180. 2 and 3 visits. $140. Totally live filming this, lads and lasses, totally live filming. $140. And again. $85. Bit of a drop off there. Bit of a drop off. Right, one more visit. Oh, 85 again. Well, that shows what I've had there, about 6 visits, something like that. 2 180s, 2 140s. That's the sort of standard you've got to play to. Anyway, I spent 2 years building it up, and then I'd say towards the end of that 2 years I started testing it. So I went out to the local pub, which was the Queen's in Hyde at the time, the Gardener's Arms, the Clark's up at the top, and just playing people. And when I went out and played them, because I knew that my averages were going up, because by now obviously I'd got a smartphone, I'd got an app on it by the end of that 2 years. So the thing of the smartphones were coming along, so I had an app and what have you, I had a tablet, so I actually had the apps that I've shown you. I had, I think it was Dart Scoreboard was the first one that I ever had. It wasn't the Raspberry one, I was put onto that by someone else. But that was where I knew that my averages were getting better. So I went out to the pub, and then first time you go out to the pub, then you realise that there's another part of this game, and is the other massively important part of the game, which is the mental side. And that is which a lot of people have been talking to me about recently, which is playing under pressure. How do you get rid of those nerves and what have you? Well, there's 1 or 2 ways that you can control your own nerves and that, but playing under pressure, obviously, you're going to play better under pressure the more you do it. I mean, I always remember Gary Anderson saying, probably 10 years ago, when the PDC was actually starting to take off and the prize money was getting big, he was saying he was actually physically sick sometimes before he went on stage, but once he got up on the stage he was perfectly fine. And that's just part of the mental side of the game, and part of the way that pressure affects different people in different ways. But the only thing I can explain to you and possibly show you how to do is to control that within yourself. Right, so we've gone through now how we've got the Dynamite Dave stance. We've done the 2 years worth of R&D, shall we call it, research and development, going back when something's been wrong, altering it, trying that, see if it works. And don't forget, this is another thing that I've said to you on hundreds of occasions: it doesn't work overnight. You've got to have faith in what you're doing, and you've got to stick to it. If you go and buy a new set of darts, I've said this on loads of videos, First couple of days, like one of the blokes said to me, oh, I've thrown a 180 with it, I had them, I took them out of the box within 7 visits or something, or 6 visits, or 5 visits. I've had a 180 with them, I've had 2 140s. It's nothing to do with the darts. That's to do with your concentration level, which is another part of the mental side of the game, which we'll go on. To. So when I went out to the pubs, I noticed that I was starting to win games, and then I started to win games comfortably, and then I started to win games convincingly, and then I started to give people who were league players, standard dart players in the pub, I'd give them 100 head start because I was beating them. So I wanted them to beat me, and this is why the handicapping system, especially on the apps, is fantastic, because you don't want to be winning all the time, because if you're winning all the time, you're not striving, you're not trying to get that next level of accuracy, you're not trying to get that next level of achievement. So what you want to do is you want to go out, and like now, when I go in the pub on a Sunday, most of the guys, I've got a couple of them that play, and it's a jovial thing. It's not, you're not under pressure, if you know what I mean. You're not out there to earn money. You've had a couple of beers and you're just chucking for fun, and you're not there to earn money or anything. So you're not playing at that level. But as I say, when you actually go to a competition, that's a different thing. When somebody's putting pound notes on the table, that makes a massive difference. That does. It don't have to concentrate the mind. Right, so thanks for watching this second part of A Chuck and a Chat, which has been how the Dynamite Dave stance and address came about and the mechanical throw. And always, 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 lads and lasses, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been informative for you and entertaining. And if it has, don't forget the old thumbs up. Click the like button, share it as much and as wide as you can. Don't forget, if you can afford to, just donate a couple of dollars, a couple of quid. You'll be putting the draw for coming along at the end of November, so you'll get them for Christmas. Right, so anyway, thanks for watching Darts Coaching with Dynamite Dave. And don't forget, lads and lasses, you'll only ever get out of this game what you put in. And I get a hell of a lot out of this game because I put a hell of a lot in. So thanks for watching. Ento to the hockey.